Yesterday I posted a video about the private devotions of Lancelot Andrewes, and I initially deleted the video because, for whatever reason, I found that the quality of the resolution was pretty bad. I think I've figured out on my phone why that keeps occurring every once in a while, because I've deleted a few. But also partly because I realized my video, while maybe just being a quick glance at the book, didn't contribute much. So I deleted it, and I would do a more in-depth look at that book, hopefully in the future, once I've read it through a bit more, and I can include some of my commentary on the qualities and all that. However, I thought, let's make a video today about the complete order I got from Nashotah House Press. I believe that's the full statement. If you are like me, you're always a little curious how the quality of something is. So the Nashotah Seminary Press website doesn't give you a lot of info on their books, and that's kind of a bummer. But they're an Anglo-Catholic group, so if you are like me in the Anglican tradition with the Anglo-Catholic leanings, it is a vital seminary, and turns out fairly good press. So the first I'll show that I got would be that Private Devotions from Lancelot Andrewes, and we'll highlight the main issue that I have with this pressing, and of course I'll go in more depth hopefully one day, is that this is a facsimile, it looks like. I don't think that's that big of a deal. You're getting something of relatively recent antiquity, I guess. They're not going to edit it, as nowadays the Anglican Communion is a bit different than it was. So you're getting what you did from the late 1800s. So I would still recommend that. I'll give quick recommendations on all of these books, I think. I haven't obviously read 3,000 pages or whatever it is since yesterday, so I haven't looked at these. The next one I got would be a Catechism, 1604. Fairly short. What I found entertaining is I saw this. Created and published by Ben Jeffries. Well, I thought that name sounds familiar. I opened up one of my tabs from my Safari, and I am in the process of reading an article he has about the Church Fathers versus the early Anglican movement's views on the Eucharist. So it is fun to see that Father Ben Jeffries is still very involved with Nashotah, it seems. I believe he is a confirmed or ordained priest. I guess I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think his bio said he went to Nashotah. Quick look at that. It's a fairly short work. This is easily the shortest work that I think they have there. A lot of it probably is covered by things we already have. I think that this has been adopted by the ACNA for use, so a lot of the wording and the language here is based on the 2019 Book of Common Prayer, which is cool. I am not familiar with the 2019 myself, but this would be a real quick, easy read. I can claim it on my Goodreads real easily, I suppose, right? The next one, this is a book that seems every Anglo-Catholic recommends. Let's see if I can't back up my camera a bit more. Yeah. I'm working with not the greatest equipment, as in a cell phone. Yeah, I made a mess. I shouldn't have done that. Okay. This is that pure, unedited action you get from me. But the next book I have, The Catholic Religion by Vernon Staley. You can see, I think this is probably also facsimile. I don't have too much of a problem with that. It would, of course, be pretty cool to have a redone copy where they redo the type and such. However, I'm going to guess part of the reason that this book was only $16 is because it was facsimile, and it's fairly well done facsimile. Considering there's roughly 400 pages in this book, yeah, I think I'm looking forward to reading this, and I think that one could proudly own this version from Nashotah. It is, I believe, glue bound. Let's see if I can... Yeah. Glue bound, pretty sure. I don't know my binding very well. And then we have The Scale of Perfection by Walter Hilton. I think this is a... excuse me. A 14th century piece of work by an Augustinian monk from England. I wasn't too familiar with it. I looked it up. I figured if it's on Nashotah House's website, it's probably interesting. Probably facsimile, but it looks pretty good. If this is an issue, I suppose I would suggest going somewhere else. I don't mind it. I think it makes it look sort of cool, I guess we'll say. Although I do have Papalism by Edward Denny, and that is also facsimile, not from Nashotah. And that's a little rough. There's some words where you're like, what is this I'm reading? So I guess be weary. I think that Nashotah is so reputable that they wouldn't do something along those lines. Next, Charles Chapman Grafton, Selected Writings. I was not familiar with this gentleman. Looks like he's an American priest. Oh, sweet. I didn't realize that. He was the Bishop of Fond du Lac. So Fond du Lac, if you're unfamiliar, is, I'm guessing this is where he was, is a city in Wisconsin. Pretty close, actually, to Nashotah House, probably is why this is so relevant. My folks are from eastern Wisconsin. I grew up in Wisconsin, so it's not unusual for me to hear that, but it's a nice surprise to see that he is, I guess, was a local, we'll say. But the reason I grabbed this, honestly, is because I have interacted a little bit with Brandon Letourneau on Twitter, and appreciate some of his works that I've read online, as well as his connection, I think, with the Anglican Office book. I think he is good friends with the creator or editor of that. So I admittedly grabbed it largely because of that, but that doesn't mean that there wasn't interest there. I wouldn't have grabbed it if it was, The Mating Rituals of the Bees by Brandon Letourneau. There had to be some interest there. And then here we're getting into what I guess they dub Anglo-Catholic Classics. And these are fairly cheap on their website too, but very exciting readings on more of the deep theology of the Anglo-Catholic movement than I am aware of. So this is probably the book I'm most looking forward to. Edward Bouvier Pusey's The Real Presence as Contained in the Fathers. I mentioned, I believe, in the Lutheran prayer book video that I had this coming. And I'm intrigued because growing up Roman Catholic, transubstantiation was the norm, what I was taught to believe. Sort of also straw-manning Protestants, as I was always taught to believe that everyone else thought it was symbolic. So it's interesting to see the Tractarian movement's views on the real presence from the early church, which I think Pusey is going to say was consubstantiation. Apologia Anglicana has an article, because I've been trying to learn more about this, about if Anglicans are not allowed to hold transubstantiation, what is it they believe about the Eucharist? Because, excuse me, I'm sorry. I don't necessarily see too much of a problem with it. I find consubstantiation, I'm used to the apologetics against such a thing, that the elements remain bread in any way. So I'm curious how this will go, and what blew me away is this is like, oh my gosh, what, 700 pages long? 722 pages long. I should have had a higher stand. Apologies. I can't imagine not finding some nuggets of wisdom in here. And what I am noticing, too, I didn't realize, is that they do number these. So that makes me think I need to complete the whole set. All right. So let's go. I guess if we're going to number them, I'll go with the next one. And I guess there were so many options, at least 14, looking at this, that I kind of grabbed the few that I could to remain at a number that I wouldn't hate myself for spending so much. But the Petrine claims, I'm not familiar with this man, Richard Frederick Littledale. However, it's apparently very important in the movement, book 11 in the series. I think that there's slight writing about it mentioned for those concerned about the claims of Petrine supremacy. Albeit, I'm going to guess they would concede that there is such a thing as Petrine supremacy, but not to the extent that Rome would probably push. That's my guess. That's traditionally been, I think, the view of the Orthodox. Most scholars, I think, would admit. I don't know. It seems obvious that Peter is the most important apostle in the Gospels. I guess you have Paul too, obviously, but he wouldn't be featured in the Gospels. So, I'm going to guess this is more so a book about downplaying how much control Peter had. Yeah, so I'm starting to get my own little opinions in there, where I think that there was some level of Petrine supremacy, but again, not to the level that we believe nowadays of in the Roman Catholic Church, at least. And then this seemed very interesting too. James Bowling Mosley's The Theory of Development. Largely because I have been seeing the doctrine of development be used as of late, especially on the topic of veneration of icons. That's been a very popular topic, with Gavin Ortland discussing that with the likes of Jimmy Akin or Trent Horn or Craig Julia as well, of the Eastern Orthodox Church. So I'm a little curious about the doctrine of development here. As these were Tractarians, I would actually think that they would hold to the Seventh Ecumenical Council anyways. Either way, I suppose doctrine of development was largely about the papacy. I don't know much about it. Surely it's a good read, or at least will teach me something. It's not a good read if you disagree with it, I suppose, maybe, right? And the last book I have kind of goes that route as well. A Different Faith. Pusey, again, here talking about how the Roman Catholic development that I suppose is being critiqued here has made reconciliation with Rome harder to have happen. I guess if I have to give, if anyone's curious right now if they should buy these things, I see no good reason why you shouldn't. The prices are right. The actual facsimile quality looks pretty good. I don't have Papalism on hand right now. Otherwise, I would say I would show you that, and you can just see how much more difficult that is to read than what Nashotah has put out here. I will hopefully in the future be making a video about at least Lancelot Andrew's private devotions. Perhaps maybe that catechism, whereas these other pieces are pretty long. I would obviously have to read those and give some thoughts on them. So, yeah, just letting you guys know I'm still alive and making a video once every week or 2 or 3. Have a good rest of your day. If you are in northern, let's say the United States, it is a fairly nice day out, so enjoy.